Today in Georgia, there have been ongoing hearings in the matter of disqualifying Fani Willis, the district attorney, from prosecuting Donald Trump. Now, I need to step back and give you a relevant detail here you may not realize. Fani Willis, the district attorney in Fulton County, has already been prohibited from investigating the lieutenant governor of Georgia, Burt Jones. She tried to drag Burt Jones into this Trump case and was prohibited from doing so because she had the audacity of holding a fundraiser for the man running against Burt Jones. She has a level of hubris that is deeply impressive. Now, there are allegations that have surfaced from Michael Roman, an opposition researcher who worked for Donald Trump. Deeply ironic there, the opposition researcher finds this stuff out. His lawyer, Ashley Merchant, a very good, noted, and respected lawyer in Georgia, filed a motion to throw out the case because Fani Willis's conflict of interest with Nathan Wade. Nathan Wade is the special prosecutor. Willis and Wade claim that they are in a relationship, but they're only in a relationship now. They were not in a relationship before he was appointed special prosecutor in, I guess, 2022. He claims, and she claims in affidavits, that they started a relationship after he became the special prosecutor. Ashley Merchant claims that, on behalf of Michael Roman, that no, the relationship pre-existed, that they were in a sexual relationship. They were committing adultery. Nathan Wade was married, and in fact, he lied on his reports, on his disclosures in the divorce case. He had to subsequently go back and amend those documents in the divorce case to acknowledge he was in a relationship while married, but they still try to say that the timeline is different. However, Ashley Merchant claimed to have a witness. That witness happened to be a friend and former roommate of Fani Willis, who testified in court today that the relationship between Fani Willis and Nathan Wade is started much earlier than either have been willing to admit. This is the exchange in court.
For what personal and romantic is later. When I ask you personal, do you take that to mean romantic?
Yes.
Okay. And do you understand it that their relationship began in 2019 and continued until the last time you spoke with her?
Yes.
So their relationship began in 2019, according to this friend of Fani Willis. A direct contradiction to what Fani Willis said. And Nathan Wade actually testified they've taken a series of trips together over the years. He says he paid for them on his business card, and she reimbursed him, of course, in cash, so it can't be traced. You just have to take his word for it that a prosecutor at the time, the assistant prosecutor, had enough money to pay him back in cash. So it's untraceable. Just take his word for it. Meanwhile, they've already had to amend when their relationship started and all sorts of other things. I'm not sure why the judge would take their word for it. In fact, the left is starting to realize that. Number of prominent progressives on television today, very somber mood on CNN and MSNBC covering this, that because they have now been exposed so much, the burden of believing them is too high. In other words, so when someone goes to court and they say things in their filings that are not true and they have to correct them, and they say something else that's not true and they have to correct it, and they keep correcting because they don't want to be perjured. They don't want to commit perjury, but they keep trying to tell the court stuff until exposed, and they got to go back and say, oh, my bad, got it wrong, here's the truth. At some point, the presumption becomes that they're lying. So Nathan Wade was asked about his travels and trips with Fani Willis.
So in 2023, December, you said you didn't have any receipts.
I do not have any receipts. I did not have any receipts.
But you did travel with Miss Willis in 2023, correct?
I did.
And you traveled with her in 2022, correct?
I did.
And you traveled with her in 2021, correct?
No.
So you only traveled with her in 2022 and 2023?
2022 and 2023 is what I recall.
That's what you recall?
Yes.
Okay. So you just don't remember if you traveled with her in 2021?
2022 and 2023 is what I recall.
Is what you recall. My question is, did you travel with her in 2021?
I'm not recalling any travel in 2021.
Not recalling is not the same as didn't travel with her. There's a big difference there. Big difference. And you have this witness who says the relationship started in 2019. This is pretty damning testimony. Now, so what's going to happen here? If Fani Willis is disqualified, and I'm at this point, I kind of will be surprised if the judge does not disqualify Fani Willis from this case, which will be hilarious to watch. I kind of will be surprised. I shouldn't say kind of. I actually will be surprised. In light of the testimony, I will be surprised if the judge does not disqualify Fani Willis. I don't think, based on the judge's statements thus far, I don't think the judge will throw the case out. I don't think he will. So there's some misunderstanding nationally on what will happen. The national misunderstanding is that if Fani Willis is disqualified by the court, then Chris Carr, the Attorney General of the state of Georgia, will take over the case or appoint a special prosecutor. That's not actually the case in Georgia. There's a panel of special prosecutors, or a panel of prosecutors, and it will go to that panel, and that panel will have to find another district attorney in Georgia to handle the case. So it doesn't go to the Attorney General. Some Trump supporters are bringing pressure on Chris Carr, the Attorney General in Georgia, to try to get him to dismiss the case. He doesn't have the power to dismiss the case. He doesn't have the power to assign a prosecutor. That would go to this panel of prosecutors. They're the ones who will assign a new prosecutor to it, if they can find one. That's the other problem here. It's a daunting case. To find a prosecutor who can handle the case, you essentially have to find someone who can set aside their own duties to their own county and their own prosecutions in order to pick up the prosecution in this case. What they may very well do is assign it to a prosecutor who looks at it and says, you know what, I'm going to throw the whole thing out. There's actually not enough substance here to maintain it. We've reviewed the case. It looks politically motivated. We're going to toss it out. They would be smart to do that. The panel of prosecutors, give it to I was about to suggest some DAs. Not going to do that because I will get hate mail galore from them, but send it to one of the other suburban Atlanta DAs from a Republican part of the state who's got a good reputation, who can look at it and assess whether or not it's worth prosecuting. And the odds are they're going to find it's politically motivated and throw it out. Let them throw it out. It will solve all sorts of problems, including the fact that the case should have never been brought to begin with in the state of Georgia. And by the way, y'all, the case should not have been brought in the state of Georgia, particularly not against Donald Trump directly under the state's Criminal RICO Act. It's too broad of a case to pursue against Donald Trump. It's too broad and too uncoordinated in the way it flows. It's ridiculous that they brought this case to begin with. And now you're seeing the hubris of Fani Willis engaged in a relationship with a special prosecutor. She didn't notify the county of the need for the special prosecutor to prosecute the case, to get the county to sign off on the bills that were going to be incurred. And it was very interesting to me personally as a lawyer, listening to Nathan Wade testify this morning, that he has a business partnership with another lawyer, and they share expenses, but they never formally organize themselves as a partnership. And that actually matters legally in the state of Georgia, that they don't actually have a formal partnership arrangement under the laws of the state of Georgia. They just kind of share expenses. And Wade was saying he put his travel expenditures with Fani Willis on his business card, and she paid him back in cash. None of that adds up as a way to do business. None of that adds up. That's all got to be a red flag for the judge hearing this case. You're taking trips with your girlfriend, put it on your business card. She's paying you back in cash. You've already twice misstated when your relationship began. Now someone comes forward, says the relationship began even before you're now willing to say when the relationship began. There's really not a lot of evidence to dispute that person telling the truth. She happened to have been your adulteress's roommate. Yeah, there are red flags all over the place for this. And the left is really starting to realize that this case is not the case that they thought it was, that this case is actually far worse than what they originally believed that it was. Josh Marshall at Talking Point Memo, which is a left-wing site. It's actually a very well-run left-wing site. They do put points on the board for the left. He's actually a very good reporter at what he does. It was one of the pioneering websites for the left to do journalism with the left-wing kind of gotcha slant on it. They put points on the board. And Josh Marshall is pointing out that this does not appear to be a good case anymore for the Democrats, that this case seems to be flawed. I'm trying to find his actual tweet here. Hang on one second. Let's see if I can find this. Josh Marshall, TPM. Good guy, even if we philosophically disagree on this stuff. Yeah, here we go. This is his piece. We'll see where things go, but Yurdy, this is Willis's old roommate whose audio I played you, contradiction of when the relationship between Wade and Willis began was very damaging for Willis. She had hinged much of her defense on the relationship beginning after Wade's hiring. Yurdy effectively chipped away at that. We're now dealing with testimony about an affair in what's the broadest reaching attempt to hold Donald Trump and his allies accountable for trying to steal the 2020 election. Trump, all the fake electors, Mark Meadows, Jeffrey Clark, and many others were charged in this case. But after Yurdy's testimony, it's clear that these accusations, as deep in the muck as they are, pose a real threat to Willis and the future of the prosecution. They do, because time and time again, when given the opportunity to set the record straight, Willis and Wade have continued to have to keep clarifying in ways that make them look like they're being willfully dishonest, to the point of today where Wade says he put all their trips on his card and she paid him back in cash. Do you really believe that? I have a hard time believing the judge will.